Hi guys, Tom here from Getting Into TV. This week I am bringing you an episode that I've been wanting to do for well over a year now. I'm going to be chatting to a guy called Jimmy all about creating creatures and monsters for things like Doctor Who and various other films as well, but also how he got into this specific area of the industry. And also some really, I feel like, eye-opening chats about the state of the industry right now. It's definitely a highlight for me in doing this series. I love all of them, but this particular one, it's really kind of relighted a love for having these chats that I can share with you. Without further ado, it's time to listen to what Jimmy has to say about creating monsters.
Hi, Jimmy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
We've been meaning to do this for probably about a year now, but finally we're here. We can talk to you about what you do, Millennium FX, and just all the amazing things that you've created over the years, which I'm quite excited to learn more about, really. So thank you.
A pleasure. Finally. It has been ages.
It has, hasn't it? I feel like I've constantly messaged you and just things always get in the way. See, the whole premise of this podcast is it's called Getting Into TV. So the best place I think to start is just how did you get your first break into the industry? And like, just take me right back to the start, really, of why did you want to get into what you do and how did you do it? And what was your first day really like on set? Just take me right back.
Gosh. Okay. So my entrance into all of this was kind of across probably about 10 years. Let's just get it out of the way and done with. I love Doctor Who. I love a lot of film and I'm a huge fan of loads of different things, but Doctor Who has been my main love. And via the Doctor Who magazine, I knew a lot about the behind the scenes stuff and all of that. I never really thought that I could get into it as a job. Now it's a lot more apparent because of people like yourself, and there's a lot more on online stuff, and there's various different shows that kind of show you a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But I genuinely felt like it didn't really happen at that time. Like you couldn't really get into it. I was doing film production at uni, and even though throughout my GCSEs, my A levels, and being a kid, I was always making stuff. So I've still got pictures of all the various things that I used to make. I was making a lot of things as a kid, never really thinking it could amount to anything. I was working at a theatre in my hometown, and I was kind of on and off doing makeup jobs and putting beards onto people to make them look like they're much older. But obviously it was, there was like a kid's production or something or other. So there's a lot of challenges there. During university, one of my tutors, David Litchfield, you absolute legend, he said that his wife's best mate or something was working on Harry Potter.
Wow.
And he said, I wonder if I can try and get her to look at your portfolio and see what's happening. So I was like, yes, absolutely. So we met up and she said, your portfolio is great. You've got a whole range of things, because I've been working for, I don't know, years. So how old was I now? I was probably like 20. And I'd been doing loads of stuff throughout my teenage years, trying to make stuff. And she said, you've got a great kind of fun, interesting portfolio. And then she said, how about, do you want to come to the International Makeup Artists trade show called IMATS? Come to it and meet up with me, and I will show you some, my friends, and speak to people. Unfortunately, IMATS now doesn't happen. There's only one in the US somewhere. It's a real shame, because that was a great trade show. There are other ones, the Prosthetics event, which is very similar kind of, mainly for prosthetics and creature effects. All of these little pieces really added up to something massive. She was working on Harry Potter, as I said, and she introduced me to Nick Dubman, who is the kind of head of prosthetics and makeup and creature stuff on Harry Potter. And she said, look, could you please just check out this guy's portfolio? He, gave her a bit of a story, and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. And he said, call this number and see if we'll get you in for some work experience kind of stuff. And I was like, sure, whatever. I did the work experience. Paula also was able to get me work experience the week after in the props department on Harry Potter as well. So I was there probably about 3 weeks in all. It really was incredible. That really shaped how I work now, and the people that I met then, and the stories, and just the day of being there in the studio, and also in like workshops around the studio. Being in an environment like that really shapes you. And yeah, so that was massive. And then I went back to college for film production and went, oh, I don't want to do film production anymore. I want to be doing prosthetics or creatures or makeup or props or something for the film, but not necessarily editing. I love editing. I still do film stuff now. I still edit little things now, and I love all of this kind of stuff. But my passion is for this tangible creature, prosthetics, props, all of that kind of stuff. We made like a zombie film. It got picked up by some kind of German DVD distribution company. You can now, well, I mean, probably can't buy the DVD now, but I think it's still on Amazon. And it's called The Dead Inside. And it was really great. And we were able to do loads of prosthetic stuff in that as well. And I had a real great time doing that. It sounds like I'm going off subject. See, all of these things really influence what happens.
I think that's one thing that I always highlight in this, and it's always fascinating hearing from other people and just their journeys. Is just like how varied and different and vast they are. And like you just saying there, just how initially you wouldn't necessarily want to do what you're doing now, but you experienced it. And I think that's a really good thing, is like you don't have to go into TV or film and be set in your way. You can find something new and totally fall in love with that. And that's a really good thing. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many people that have got into TV just anyway to try and get in somewhere. There's loads of people on the various productions that we're working on at the moment, and things that are going in as ADs, that are going in as runners, that are going in all these different roles, and then finding their niche kind of a little bit later on when they've kind of seen what it's like. And it's an industry full of people that are kind of creating something together, but they are also not necessarily fixed in what they want to do, and they're jumping around. A friend of mine's just had a baby, and now she's dropped out of doing AD stuff, and she's now in like subtitling and she's doing graphics and stuff in the same company, and she's kind of like skipped around to a different place, and she's now loving that area, and maybe we'll go back to doing AD stuff later or whatever. Yeah, so there's like different ways. As far as how I've got to where I am now, after many years of trying to do film production stuff and failing miserably and not really knowing what to do, I was working in the NHS as well, behind a laptop, behind a screen, doing random things. I did some teaching, I did this and that. And then I messaged Paula Eden and I said, I think I want to try the creatures and prosthetics and what you're doing. And she said, even though my portfolio is good, she said, I might need some more professional direction. At that time, Neil Gorton of Millennium Effects fame had his separate course school, Gorton Studio, and they did a short 7-week intensive course. And I'd saved up some money and I just thought, let's just do it. And my parents helped me out, and everyone was like, let's get you to do it. I was very lucky to get onto that course. Bizarrely enough, at the same time, at exactly the same time as that, I was also working an evening job, as well as the stuff in the NHS. I was working an evening job at another theatre, like a comedy in Bedford, my hometown. And I was doing lighting and sound. One of the comedians was a massive Doctor Who fan and did a set basically about Doctor Who and all that kind of stuff. And then he noticed that I was wearing Matt Smith's green jacket. And he said, "Oh, you Doctor Who fan?" I said, "Oh, yeah." And we spoke on Facebook a little bit much later on. And he said, "I noticed that you're a maker, you're like a plot maker stuff. Do you have a job at the moment?" And I said, "No, I do not." And he said, "Would you like a job?" And I went, "Oh, what?" He was the props master at the English National Opera Top House. And I mean, Doctor Who, bringing families together. So another shout out to Paul Jones. There's a lot of people in this industry that will give you a chance. And he said that he was given a chance by Robert Alsop, who is props costume guy who worked on classic Doctor Who as well as new Doctor Who, loads of other things. He was given a chance as a younger man, and he said, "I will always try and give chances to people who want to work in the industry. It's a very hard job, but he said, I'll give you a chance, and then if you're good or whatever it is, then I'll keep you on." I worked there for years and years and years and years. And I kept on going back there because it's not necessarily about working in one place. It is about your contacts, your Filofax, of Rolodex of things. I then did the Neil Gorton course, and then straight after that, I went back to work at Paul's. And then from there, one of my friends who was working at the prop house, she said, "Oh, my ex-boss is looking for people on a new film that he's doing in Mold Shop. Do you want to go and do you want to go and see about that?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What's the film?" And she said, "Star Wars." So yeah.
You say now you're at Millennium.
Mm.
Can you just give us an idea of what it's like, not necessarily working there, but like the thing that you do. Just talk to me a bit about what an average day is for you and your job, which I am aware that probably will be very different every single day.
Yeah, average day. So it's so difficult to work out what an average day is, because a lot of so just for everyone out there who doesn't necessarily know what Millennium is or kind of what I do, so it's creatures, prosthetics, props. The reason why it's all of and costumes, the reason why it's all of these things is that they're all using the same techniques, the same materials, and there's a lot of overlap. Like, for instance, like Star Wars or Harry Potter or something like that. And actually, a lot of TV series are going this way, saying that a lot of big TV series like Rings of Power and all these kind of big TV, these huge spectacle TV shows, they've got their own departments that are normally within the grounds of where they're filming it. There's usually like a studio set up, and they're shooting at, Leavesden or something like that, or Pinewood, for instance. So there's that, but then there's also where I currently am, which is Millennium, and Millennium of everything fame. They've done so much over the years, but I guess let's just stick with Doctor Who. Obviously, they've been doing Doctor Who for years, since 2005 and all of that. So we make a lot of things that then gets shipped out to productions, or we take them out and do stuff with them on set. We're basically manufacturing. When people really think about what I do on a day-to-day, everyone seems to feel like there's, people kind of wandering in and wandering out. There's like scenery and this and that. And it can be that, but we're obviously manufacturing the kind of weirdest things and bizarre things. So I currently work in the mold shop. So that is, getting a sculpt in, getting an item, a prop, something or other in, and molding that, then walling things up, molding it, cleaning everything out, and then sending it either to different departments or like running the piece. So creating a prosthetic out of it, or a piece of fiberglass something out of it, or whatever. As far as like what we do day to day, I genuinely can't really tell you, because dependent on the job, dependent on, it being Doctor Who, or it being a really busy time, it being there's, the show Foundation on Apple TV. Sometimes you've got a bit of an overlap, but sometimes there's like one production on, and I genuinely can't tell you exactly what the day is, apart from I get there for 8:30 and you just see what's going to land on your desk. It could be a likeness of a famous actor, or it could be a generic hand, or list anything from Doctor Who, from any of that. It could be any of these things. Like, it's wild.
It sounds really fun. Just like the things that you get to, I suppose, create and look after. Just focusing on Doctor Who for a minute. Are there any like monsters or characters that you've worked on that stand out particularly as challenging, rewarding? Like, which ones to you are like, I can't believe we got to do that?
From a fan point, let's just go to the fan point for the beginning. From a fan point, working on the Mondasian Cybermen for Peter Capaldi's last couple of episodes was wild. Seeing the concepts come in and seeing incredible sculptors and people like Gary Pollard, who is also a massive fan, and he really wanted to make things as, like the originals as you could without it being like sellotape to someone's head, which sometimes there are still shots which you could just about see that there's like literal sellotape holding things up. So recreating those but for a new audience was just brilliant. And then going on set with those and having, what was it, 6 or 8 Mondasian Cybermen marching around the streets of Cardiff at 1 o'clock in the morning, knowing full well that there's going to be pictures of this online.
I was one of them people that.
Were you there?
It was there. Well, I was working in the Bay at the time because I think you must have started shooting not too late into the night, but I'd finished work basically, and I was just walking around the corner, and I had no idea you guys were filming. I walked around the corner, and then through the smoke, I just have 6 or 8 of the 2006 Cybermen walk through this.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of there, just like the Cybermen of my childhood. And I was like, in that moment, I didn't see the camera, you didn't see the crew. I just saw Cybermen walking towards me. It was an amazing night. Talking about them Mondasian Cybermen, what was your job with them then? How involved were you in making them?
So, I mean, I'm a small cog in a massive machine when it comes to something like that. As far as the production of it, I molded and cast out some of the pieces that were on the chest unit, but even then, sometimes you're moved on to something else and all of that. Another one of your questions was first day on set. I've done a couple of bits of stuff on set before, but nothing as wild as Doctor Who. My boss texted me on a Sunday, and she said, "Do you want to go to Cardiff tomorrow?" And I was like, "Okay, sure. What for?" And she was like, "We need just help with the Ice Warriors because they're like 7 foot tall guys." So whilst that was happening, I then stayed for most of the shoot, I think, and then I went back to the workshop and carried on with assembling bits for the Cybermen, helping out Gary Pollard and Joe Browning, doing all these model making pieces. And can you quickly mold this? And we need 5 of these. We need this. There was a huge team of us working on, I can't remember, 6, 8, something or other. So many of these things, and they were really, really incredible pieces. So that was mainly what it was. And then we went down with all the costumes, met all the actors. We were in one of the random rooms at Roselock with rails of all of the different Cybermen and what felt like hundreds of actors. And you could kind of tell the actors about who they were going to be. So the RTD ones were quite tall, but they were quite stocky and tall, so quite strong. Then the Nightmare and Silver ones were shorter and slighter, because they were supposed to be like the kind of fast.
Iron Cybermen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the Mondasian ones were, really tall, very thin, but kind of slightly kind of muscular ones. And you could kind of tell all of the actors which ones they're going to be because of all of that. And trying on all of these costumes, then we packed everything up and drove over to the location, got everyone into outfits, did the promo pictures of the Mondasian Cybermen. We then were basically ushered out into the street and had to do all of the shots, within a couple of hours. So it was a mad time. I can't remember when we went to bed, really. It's just mad, just wild. And we were trying to keep the Mondasians kind of a little bit quiet. So we kind of put them into there's like one broken down building that had these beautiful stairs. And I've got a picture of all of the Cybermen climbing over the stairs, and then there's me in the front. We couldn't get them out of costume because they were so cold as well that they preferred to keep their masks on.
Yeah.
So we just stood with them, and they all having a great time, but trying to keep warm and also away from the smoke, because the smoke that was using, if it goes onto the mask and stuff, because that mask was obviously material.
It sounds like an amazing thing to just work on, being able to create them monsters. And like, I imagine it must be a really, really good sense of pride that you get from creating individual parts of a costume that then come together to create such an iconic thing that people then go obsess over and gets turned into a figure or something like that. It must be a real kind of sense of like, wow, I had some part in that. That's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah. It's wild, but
Yeah.
you're a little part of it, and you have to really realize that you are a small cog in a massive machine and be okay with that. Especially when you're starting out. Just be fine that it's going to take you a couple of years to kind of get to somewhere.
But the beauty of
Because
it is that, and it's something that I've said multiple times, and many people have said, is the beauty of when you're starting out, and yeah, okay, it might take you a while to become a bigger part of the machine, but you get to learn a lot from many different people and get to talk to them people, which is
oh yeah,
so
yeah.
vital. So that time is one of the best times. Just before we move on, just sticking with Doctor Who, if there was one monster, if there was one thing that you could get the chance to recreate now with the modern techniques, what would it be, and why?
Oh my God. That is actually a really good one. One of them I can't talk about.
That's exciting.
Okay, so the Draconians, I would love to have a crack at the Draconians. That would be great. They'll be really fun. They'll be really exciting to kind of do what Millennium does best on something like the Draconians, because looking at the Silurians and how there's a cowl and then there's a makeup piece and a chin, like and a neck piece, like that would be great with the Draconians with a lovely cowl, all of that. That would be really, really fun to do. I would love to have a crack at seeing the Telos Cybermen. I would love to do more body horror with the Cybermen.
Yes, that's one thing that I love. I think it would be really good to push.
I don't think they can go too far with it. I think we just about got there with Weld Enough and Time, but I think anything more, I mean, I would love to see blood. I mean, it would be amazing to see blood and all of that stuff, but we couldn't do that. I would love for us to bring back the Slitheen.
Yes. That's what I was waiting
So,
for.
so, so I series one in 2005 starts off a little bit silly. You know, you've got to let people in. People go, oh, it's a silly old program. You know, it's a silly old bloke in a silly old box with silly old farting aliens, and then they hit you with like Father's Day, and then they hit you with Parting of the Ways, and they hit you with all of that stuff. So farting aliens, even though now you go, it's a bit weird, it's a bit silly, is like it's great,
Slitheen are
but
icons
that
of
they are they're vicious. So in doing the stuff like the Roth and Beat Them, you can start to realize that there are lots of things that you can do with actors in costumes. The Roth all had, I mean, you've seen all the behind the scenes stuff, trying to get those legs on. They had the digi legs, all of that. They had these, you know, a claw and all that kind of stuff. Imagine what you could do with the Slitheen, like running, because
oh,
you could get
it would be scary.
because it's the arm extensions, and you could there was a load of stuff that we did for the a Wild Blue Yonder. There was some like texture stuff that we did with one of the Beast kind of doctory characters, where sorry, the other Doctor, where he's like running almost like an ape, like running with two arms and two legs and that kind of stuff. And seeing that, I was thinking, that's terrifying. Like, imagine a baby-faced Slitheen,
That would be good.
like with their massive eyes and their vicious teeth.
I'll run the show one day and I'll bring them back.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
make
great.
that's
Give
the
me a
plan.
call.
Yeah,
Give
I
me a
will.
call. I would love, and then we can get Paul Casey involved in it again, because
Exactly.
Paul Casey's doing all of the movement stuff now, and he's so passionate about it. I mean, there's pictures of him as a Sabine, and we spoke at length about it. Those claws,
Yeah.
honey, those claws. Vicious, love them.
I'm in my element here. It's all fascinating. It's nice to hear your passion and also what it's like to work on set and create them. But what I think would be really good, specifically for the podcast itself, is like the industry that you work in, the specific area of the industry that you work in. What skills or qualities do you think would help someone stand out? To say you were hiring someone, what would make them stand out as a future Millennium FX person?
Great questions. I think companies like Millennium are always looking for people that can kind of muck in with everyone. you hear a lot of people say that working in these kind of workshops is like working in a big family, which it is as what it is, and you always have to like muck in to make things, to make this happen. So it's like initially when you go to, if you're going in as a trainee or even a junior to any of these companies, they'll always be asking you, there'll be things that you have to do. Some companies are like, we'll just ask you to do certain things, and other companies like, you have to do this throughout your day. We kind of just want from people to be as open as possible, and to understand that there's a specific line that is happening. There's, when we're making a prosthetic or making a creature or whatever, it's going to go through all of the channels that it needs to go through, all of the departments. And when you come into a company afresh, you're hardly ever going to start off and suddenly go on set with something. It's very rarely you might be dragged in because, we need to make up numbers for something like that. Your time will come in any of these things. You've just got to get your head down and understand that it's a busy working environment, and you've got to, I mean, we all started off emptying bins and doing all that stuff, and putting new barrels of silicone in, and like getting out all of the plaster bandage and all these kind of things, and we've got to go into the warehouse again and get out the mold number 573, and then we've got to tidy up this thing and put away all of the human hearts and the limbs, because everything's so, with Instagram, you're kind of showing your portfolio all of the time. I think there's a lot of people that think because you've got a following or you've got a portfolio that you're instantly going to be going on set, and you're instantly going to be working with all these incredible actors and all that kind of stuff. Companies like the ones that I work for that are not, they're not watching your reels or whatever it is. We're busy making these TV shows, and it sounds awful, but no one really cares about that. All we want to see is the kind of stuff that you've done, which could be on Instagram. I mean, your portfolio could be your Instagram, but we just want to see what the kind of stuff that you've done, and that you're not a dick. Basically,
I think that's like really good advice just in general, because, and I've said it before, in telly, in all forms of telly, factual, drama, film, whatever, you are with these people a lot longer than probably you would be with your family for most of the time. You are TV people, they become your family, your friends, and you just want to be a nice person. And I think that is probably one of the most important things, just to be in telly, because just don't be arrogant. Like you say, don't be a dick. Just be willing to ask questions, willing to learn, and I think people will then be willing to help you.
Yeah, totally. And there really aren't any silly questions, just silly people. And there are no stupid questions, only stupid people, which we are always probably stupid as well. Try not to have an ego about anything, because when you're making something for a massive production, the studio executives don't care about you. Like, they don't know who you are. They don't care about you. It's about you and your job that you're doing. If you're passionate about the little thing that you're doing, and then it goes onto a screen at some point, you've done that, and that's brilliant. And you've been part of something else, and that's what it really boils down to. You are so right. You are so right in saying that these people that you work with, you're with them sometimes longer than your family. I have worked at BG Effects, Barry Gower Effects, and they did Game of Thrones, and I did a couple of nights on the long night. So yeah.
I can imagine that was intense as well, because not only are you away from your family, I imagine, but you're out in the cold, you're out in, I imagine, the wet, and also it, like you say, it was a long night, because you were filming all that at night, I imagine, right? You were it's tiring, it's exhausting. There's all these different factors that people, I suppose, when they come into it, don't necessarily think of.
You are put through so much with all of the things, all of the stuff for Doctor Who as well, all of the various things. You are also looking after people You're looking after the actors, you're looking after the costumes and the prosthetics and all that kind of stuff. You sometimes become like a doctor for them. You become a family friend. You become a shoulder to cry on. You become a therapist. And then you take off all the makeup, and then you become a beauty technician. And then you say, great, we'll see you again tomorrow. And then you've got to deal with all of your stuff that you're working. You know, a lot of these things, it does take up your entire life. There are people that were on the long night throughout the entire I can't remember how long it is, but it was months. It was months that they were working at night in like a pig farm in Ireland. It was in this giant farmland that they built the set, and there was fake snow, there was fire, there was explosions, there's this, there's that, there's so much going on. You're having to deal with all these actors that you were suddenly best friends with,
Yeah.
and you're also dealing with your colleagues that are there, and everyone's sleep deprived, everyone's going mad, everyone's drinking, necking Red Bulls because. But then also anything that's going on between you and your colleagues, which shouldn't be anything, you've all just got to get on. You pass the time however you pass the time. You've then got to forget everything and just focus on the actors, the talent, and make sure that the talent are doing what they need to do for the screen. And then you've got to hide loads of stuff from the talent because the talent don't need to hear that something bad has happened or that whatever. You've got to filter information to them. So there's such a lot in this kind of job, in this kind of area, there's such a lot that you have to do and hide that ultimately you've got to swallow your pride, swallow some of the things that you're feeling or whatever it is, because it is it is a intense job. And this job you might only be doing for 6 months, and then you might be not working for another 6 months.
How do you cope being in the TV industry and being away from family for so? Because I think it's the reality that people don't necessarily think of. Like, I go away with work for weeks and weeks on end, like, which I love doing because I travel to amazing places. But what is your thing that if you are going away, if you are maybe stuck in between jobs, how do you deal with that?
So yeah, it's different now. So I'm now married, and I don't necessarily take or want to go for the jobs that take me further away from my cat and my house. But I mean, I love going down to Cardiff, and I'll go all over the place in the UK. When doing something like, for instance, Game of Thrones, which is over in Ireland, I was there for possibly a week, I think. As I said, people were there for months. And the difficulty being that you're there doing that during the week, but you're also doing night shoots. Your days are completely messed up. You've just kind of got to realize that this is going to be for a finite amount of time. You really need to get your head set around it and say, I'm only going to be away from my family, from my friends, from my life for this amount of time, because these people are now my family, my friends, and my life. And you understand this, there's a lot of hurry up
Yeah.
to wait.
Yeah.
Quickly, hurry up. We're now going to wait for an hour whilst we're setting up this shot. So you've got short spurts of energy of, I've got to put someone in a costume, in makeup. They've got to have their lunch or their breakfast or their dinner, whatever it is, for 15 minutes, which means that I give them their food, or they get given their food, and we say goodbye to them. And then we've got to go and eat for 5 minutes. And then we've got to rush over and sort out them and sort out their makeup, to then rush onto the set and then wait for 2 hours when nothing happens.
It's always about giving yourself balance as well. And I think that's something
Balance.
I struggled with right at the start, and I think I'm getting better at now. I'm getting better at giving myself time off and not going necessarily from job to job, because I think that's the thing is when you're so new and you're just starting out. And I do think that people maybe above me are still bad for this as well. You just kind of don't breathe. You just kind of run because, as we all know, the industry is so so messy right now, basically, is the best way to
Oh
put it.
yeah.
So messy. So it's so perfectly natural that when a job comes, you just take it and you don't think about it. But it's so important to just give yourself that balance. I don't want to be too down, but like, obviously, I got a couple more questions for you. I want to just really briefly talk about ways to actually get into what you do. But before we do that, like, obviously, the industry is so, like I said, messy, crazy. Like, for you, how do you, not how do you cope, but like, where do you see the future of the industry for necessarily what you do? Is it something that is feasible for someone, if that makes sense? Just because it's just a difficult time to get into telly.
Yeah, it really is. It's still very difficult for a lot of people, and there are loads of people that have been working at our workshop and at other workshops who haven't been back to work this year, who haven't been back to work for a while. And I think it's about, so I think a lot of us have fallen kind of into into a bit of a depression, because you realize after a while that what we do is silly,
Yeah.
and it doesn't exist, and all of that. And then I've kind of lent on the fact that yes, it is silly, but we can also the kind of pull together loads of different skills. Even on, like, on set, you've got different skills to when you're in the workshop. We're talking specifically about TV. We can also lend our expertise and everything to theatre and to film. It's all the same big pot. But then I think also it's not necessarily about retraining physically, it's about retraining our mind. We're all multi-skilled people,
Yeah.
and we can build things, we can make things, and we can think on the spot to do stuff, to create these kind of things, little educational things, loads of skill sharing things with schools and universities and that kind of thing. There's lots of different avenues we can start going down, because I think a lot of people think, I just want to be into TV, I just want to do this, I just want to, and actually your skill set, even though you think that it's quite direct and quite straightforward, like, actually it can go in other places. You can apply yourself to different things. And to everyone out there that is really having trouble, because everyone is having trouble, you're totally not alone.
It is that thing of like I love doing this, like talking to you and talking to people, but there is that sense of guilt that I suppose, like you say, that passion is just like that sense of guilt. It's like, should I be telling people and like shining like this is how to get into telly or the creative when it's so messy? But I completely get what you say. It's just like, we are very versatile. We have multiple skills that we can go to places, and I suppose it's about not necessarily getting down in it, which is difficult, but it's about trying to just find it sounds stupid saying a different route because it's not that simple, but I think it is just about trying to work your way around the mess.
Yeah, because it is messy, it is difficult. And as far as where the future of the industry goes, I don't think TV I don't think TV and film and theatre is going anywhere.
Mm.
We've been working on the Stranger Things theatre show,
Oh, really? That's
and
a really good show.
yeah, have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it last year. Loved it.
Oh, great. Yeah, I only recently saw it a couple of weeks ago. I'm blown away by it.
Mm.
Not that wasn't tooting our own horn or anything like that, but like the show, I just thought, well, this is the future of theatre, and theatre can do so much. And this is a company that has done Doctor Who and Foundation, all that kind of stuff, and is now doing theatre things, because the theatre industry wants to create different kinds of theatre.
I suppose it wants to create cinematic experiences. That's what everyone's
Yeah.
going for. And I suppose really, like I hate the phrase, you've got to diversify your skill set and you've got to do all of this, you've got to upskill and all this. But I suppose really that is also what the industry is doing. It's just going through that phase of, we can't just be TV, we can't just be theatre, we need to be everything.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's the way you've, I suppose, really got to look at it. Obviously, we've just spoken about the difficulties, but I'd really like to end it on ways people could potentially get into what you do? Where can people look to give people hope, really?
It's difficult because retraining is always difficult for people that are slightly older, but it's all kind of portfolio based. Like, make your portfolio, do as much as you can. If you're working at a bar or something, or in a different kind of job, or in the, like I was in the NHS, whatever it is, spend your evenings doing loads of portfolio stuff, make things, do things, create, craft, and put that into a massive portfolio, and that you can then bring to, I mean, Instagram is a great place. You can start messaging people on Instagram, messaging the companies. There's loads of studios that have got websites, you know, message places like Barry Gower's and Millennium, and I mean John Nolan's, and all these different places that have got like studios, and FBFX, all these different places. Instagram is such a great tool. Follow and compile a list of all these places. If you're younger, or if you do want to go into a university kind of, or masters or something like that, I know that it's such a lot of money, and no one has any money these days, but you are passionate enough, check out Gorton School, as in like Neil Gorton's masters and the things that he does with Falmouth University. Like, that's a great way in to have industry Neil Gorton, who's teaching you various different ways. I mean, the thing is that the ways that he teaches as well, it isn't necessarily the way that another person does it, and that isn't necessarily perfect. Like, you need to realize that every place that you go to is so different, but it's great to get the contacts, to get someone who has worked in the industry for 30, however many years that he's been doing it, and all the other people that work in there and on the course. And there's loads of other courses. Is it Bolton as well that do a effects course? Like, there's loads of courses that you can do at university level. There's short courses as well. It's, if you can afford to do that, great. If you can't, portfolio, and just start messaging, get out there, do loads of things. It is difficult,
But it's exciting.
it's
exciting.
so exciting.
Like, well, see, don't want to end it on a negative, but it's so rewarding, whatever it is you're doing, just getting to meet people and getting to talk to people, and that's what I love about just doing this and just getting to chat to you. I mean, I work in documentary, but I'm getting to talk to you about the SFX and the creatures that you make and all that kind of stuff, or I get to go and speak to someone about the direction that they do on Casualty. And I think that's real key, is just like we said earlier, just talk to people, regardless of whether it's what you want to do or not. Just talk to people and get that information, and just that connection, and that community of people going. And I think it will help. It will help in the long run, even if you don't necessarily get any work. Having that community of people you can moan to about how bad it is.
Right. Totally. It's fantastic. It's wild, fantastic, ridiculous, and stupid. And as long as you realize not to stress too much over these things, it sounds like it's a throwaway thing. It is only telly.
It's true.
Which is like our passion. And I think what a lot of people have got to realize is that it is silly what we do. But that's why it's so much fun, because all of this is silly.
Everything will be okay.
We'll get there in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, TV's not going anywhere. It's just going to be slightly different.
Yeah,
we're all still watching it.
That's true.
I'm gonna sit down and watch Severance now.
Oh, enjoy! I need to start that. I think though this is a perfect place to end the episode. It's been honestly lovely just getting to fanboy over one of my favorite shows, and just kind of hear about how, especially one of my favorite monsters and the favorite episodes was created. So that was really fun, and just hearing that, and also
a pleasure,
our passion of the Slitheen, which I share with you. But no, really fascinating, and just really good to kind of just finally talk to you about it all. And hopefully those listening or watching will be inspired to maybe work with you one day.
No, that'd be lovely. Say hi. Go and say hi.
I love it. No, thank you so much.
A pleasure.